Starting pitcher preview part 2 up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Tuesday, February 20th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and let's do our SP preview part 2. The way this is going to work, our favorite starting pitchers to draft inside the top 36 at the position. And we're just going to rattle off as many as we can. Scott, you are up first. One of your favorites to draft.
One of my favorites to draft is Yoshinobu Yamamoto because I am convinced he's an ace. He certainly was in Japan, most decorated pitcher ever to come out of Japan. And because all the scouting reports are effusive in their praise, they compare his splitter to Kevin Gausman, his curveball to Max Fried, his control to George Kirby, which are basically superlatives in each of those categories. And the good news is, because of World Baseball Classic last year, we have data to back it up. We have data with him using an MLB ball. It all looks like it's going to play for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. No obvious health concerns there. He is, in my mind, a true ace, and tends to be a true ace who's available even after the MVP caliber bats, which take up most of the first 3 rounds. Even after they're all off the board, Yamamoto is usually still there.
Yeah, if you look at the ADP, according to Fantasy Pros, Yamamoto is the 13th starting pitcher off the board at 50.6. So seems like a pretty good value. I agree, Scott. The one of the top pitchers that I like to draft a lot is Zack Wheeler. A bit of an inflated ERA last year, 3.61, but he posted the best walk rate and the best swinging strike rate of his career. Continues to rely heavily on the four-seam fastball and the sinker. Velocity still looks fine on both of those. He introduced a new sweeper last year, used it 12% of the time, and it was an awesome pitch for Zack Wheeler. 198 batting average against, a 39% whiff rate. He's getting up there a bit in terms of age, turns 34 in May, but also entering a contract year. I have Zack Wheeler as my SP3, behind Strider and behind Cole. Anytime he slips into the third round of drafts, he's typically the top pitcher that I am looking to draft in that range. Scott, you're back up. Another pitcher that you love to draft.
Maybe the one I like to draft most of all is Cole Ragans, who is the 31st starting pitcher drafted on average. I have him 16th in my rankings, and originally I had him 11th. I think you can make the case for him to go that high. And I think he emerged as an ace over the final 2 months last season, joined the Royals rotation in 11 starts, had a 2.70 ERA, 106 whip, 11.6 K per 9. His fastball velocity peaked at 101 during that stretch, which is good for anybody, of course, but especially a lefty. And also he introduced a slider to his arsenal during that stretch that immediately came his best swing and miss pitch. It seemed to round out his whole arsenal. 5 pitches, all get swinging strikes at a pretty good rate. And so I think there's a deep arsenal, a high-end arsenal. It's delivered high-end results. There are durability concerns. There are control concerns. But they're, in my mind, not any worse than like Freddie Peralta, who is going closer to 15th than 30th among starting pitchers. So I think Reagan should rank at about the same point.
All right, next up for me, if I miss out on Zack Wheeler as my SP1 in round 3, I've been winding up with a lot of Logan Webb, who typically goes in the 4th round, sometimes slips even into the 5th round as well. He's been incredibly consistent 3 years in a row, between a 2.90 and a 3.25 ERA, between a 107 and 116 whip in each of those years. He led baseball in innings pitched last season, also in ground ball rate and quality starts, 24 of them tied with Garrett Cole. So if you do play in a points league, Logan Webb gets a boost there as well. He pitches backwards. The changeup is the most used pitch for him. It's become a very good pitch for Logan Webb. He does not get a lot of strikeouts. That is the one knock on Webb. But guess what? Neither does George Kirby, and he's going around earlier than Logan Webb. So I like the discount that we get. And if you draft Logan Webb as your SP1 in a Roto or a Categories League, you can pair him with other high upside strikeout options, the Cole Ragans, which Scott mentioned, or Tyler Glasnow, or Blake Snell, Kodai Senga. Lots of options that you can pair very easily with Logan Webb. Scott, bring us home another pitcher you love to draft.
Yuri Perez, and I know Chris Towers loves Yuri Perez as well. Was pretty dominant after the Marlins called him up last year for the 19 starts he made in the majors, and you dig deeper into the individual pitch characteristics, it's even more dominant. He had 3 pitches with a top 10 whiff rate: the slider, the curveball, and the changeup. All top 10, all a better whiff rate than 45%. Usually, even one pitch with a whiff rate that good is a sign of greatness. That Yuri Perez has 3, and he did it as a 20-year-old in his first round of go round in the majors. There are probably Cy Young awards in his future if health doesn't undermine him. And it's easy to talk about Yuri Perez to put him in the same conversation. Grayson Rodriguez, Bobby Miller, 3 rookies who really impressed last year and are expected to take another leap in their sophomore seasons. Yuri Perez is going the last of those 3. Bobby Miller and Grayson Rodriguez again being the others. To me, he should go first of the 3. I think he has the most upside of that group.
And the third pitcher that I really like to draft inside the top 36, Bobby Miller, as you just mentioned, Scott. And if you want to find out why, then you can listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.